Okay, welcome to everyone. I know we took a while to get a quorum. Thank you, everybody, for being here, but we've confirmed what I'll call a super quorum because we're looking to approve our regional plan we have 26 active town-appointed commissioners here. Thank you for everyone for being here. Any amendments to the agenda? I'm going to have one. I am going to move the adoption of the updated regional plan to the front ahead of the approval of the minutes and administrative items. Any other amendments? Hearing and seeing none, we're going to move forward with the first item, which is the adoption of the updated regional plan. Thank you so much for your patience tonight. Thank you for being here. I also wanted to thank everybody. I know that both commissioners and staff, there's been sort of a huge amount of time put into this plan over a number of years. And there's been a huge amount of work that has brought us to get here today to just making our quorum. I know this has been, the subject or draft portions or sections of the plan have been the subject of a number of different committee meetings where you took the time to review and comment on the draft sections that pertain to the relevant committee. I want to thank all the commissioners and the public who did attend the hearings that we had in the past few months. I want to just point out, well, I have your attention. I hope you're all able to focus on the policies and the implementation matrix. I think they are really clear, particularly the matrix. And I just want to point that out because in my opinion, that's sort of the crux of the key sections of our plan. If we are going to look at an Act 250 project or make a recommendation, we are always looking to our policies and applying our policies, evaluating the project against those policies. And I think with this revision, we were really able to strengthen certain aspects and refine a number of policies in our plan. Additionally, this is the first time we'll be able to offer both a web-based and a printable version of the plan, which is a first time for us. And I know that, one of our committees worked with both Matt Batchelor and the web-based designers to comment and work through the user interface of the plan. And so I want to, take a moment to really thank Chris and Matt, who've been leading this charge, I think since right after COVID. This has been just a ginormous lift. And so I want to take a moment before we go into things to really thank them and to thank you. With that, I'm gonna ask Matt to just sort of introduce the procedural processes that we went through, so we can all be on the same page, that we met our statutory requirements, and be clear that we solicited the amount of stakeholder and public input that we'd intended. And then I'm going to just sort of make a motion and then open it up for discussion. All right.
Thanks, thanks, Gabby.
I'll turn it over to Matt.
So I just have a few slides that I'll go through quickly. So quickly, I just want to go over the process we've been through. I know many of you have been involved in the regional plan update process from the beginning, but we do have some new commissioners that have joined WRC since we started this process. So for this regional plan update, we kind of officially kicked off the process in fall of 2022. As Gabby mentioned, WRC staff and our committees worked for several months reviewing the current regional plan and discussing updates to each section of the plan. So that was winter of 2023 through summer 2024. This is also a time when we did public outreach and stakeholder engagement. And then we had a first draft that we assembled in the fall of last year. We had a period of time for commissioners to review the draft plan before we held public meetings in February of this year. We did 4 in-person meetings throughout the region to present the draft plan. We also had one Zoom meeting in February as well. We then did some final updates to the plan based on commissioner comments and public comments. And at the full commission meeting in April, the commissioners voted to proceed to the required public hearings for the plan. So we did hold 2 public hearings as required by statute last week on July 22nd and July 24th. And then we're here this evening for the commission to consider adoption of the plan. So just quick summary of the public hearings. So July 22nd, we held that meeting at 12 o'clock. And July 24th, that was a 6 p.m. meeting. Our meetings were here at WRC's office, and we also had a remote option. So I did provide summaries in the meeting packet for both of the hearings. A lot of just appreciation, positive feedback about the new web-based format of the plan, and just how that's going to be more useful and easier for towns to use. There was recommendations on if there's a way to track usage of the site, that would be helpful information to for WRC to have. And then also just a recommendation that because it really is meant as a resource for towns to make sure that the website is shared with town boards and committees so that they're aware of that new format. So before the public hearings, we did send notice to the public hearings and a link to, because we have now a web-based plan, we shared a link to our website that was sent to the select board chairs for each town in our region, the executive directors of the abutting regional planning commissions, and then to all the state agencies as required by statute and listed out on the slide here. I won't read through all those, but they were notified of the public hearings. We didn't receive any written comments from state agencies. And with that too, I just wanted to go over adoption requirements. So after we hold our public hearings, the full commission can consider adoption of the plan. So the adoption, it's a majority vote, but we are required to have a quorum of 60% of town appointed commissioners, which we do have. The regional plan takes effect 35 days after adoption. During that period of time, we do notify the towns in our region that the plan has been adopted. And then there is a period of 35 days where towns can vote to veto the proposed plan. And if a majority of towns veto the plan, then it does not go into effect. But after that 35-day period, it takes effect after the date of adoption. So that's all I had at this point. There's a lot more that could be said, but I know it's been a lengthy process, and you all have been very involved throughout. So I wanted to keep it brief at this point.
And one thing I'll just note, so we had to have a quorum of 60% of all town appointed commissioners present. When it comes to vote, and by statute, and by extension, our bylaws, those are the votes that count towards approval of the plan. But the citizen interest commissioners, I'm looking at Lynette, we have others joining us online. You can still vote. It just doesn't count towards the statutory requirement. So you can still register your approval or not. So feel free to vote.
All right, thanks, Matt. Can I ask you to take down the screen sharing just so I can see everybody? Sorry, on my screen at least. I guess I could have closed it. So with that, I'm gonna just lead it off by making a motion. So we procedurally go about things the right way. So we'll have a motion, I'll ask for a second, and then we'll proceed with discussion. So I would move to adopt the updated regional plan as presented with a data corrections update page on the plan website. And that is just simply because, as you received as part of your packet, We did get some post-hearing written comments. Really, they're just sort of, I would consider them, I mean, they're not typos, but they're sort of just factual corrections that aren't going to impact our policies. But we did receive one from the town of Brattleboro that it was part of your packet. And we also just received one today from a commissioner from Putney. So I'm going to make that motion.
Second.
Thank you, Bonnie. With that, I will open it up for discussion. Hopefully everybody had a chance. I'm just going to say up front, I'm really excited about the web-based plan. I think it makes it easier to share. I like the icons. I like the implementation matrix with the color coding. I like the ability to sort of page around in it when I'm looking for something. So I will just say, I know Matt and Chris and staff have been working on this for a tremendous period of time. I like the maps. Everything in the maps have been updated. And I think that was something that commissioners have been asking for since pre-COVID. So I'm really excited that we are finally able to go through our process and complete it. Yes, Art.
I apologize to everybody that's here, but I've been asked by Westminster to ask this vote to be tabled because we're not finding anyone in the town. I have received no comments or discussion, and then trying to contact people, I've found no one in the town who had seen this plan.
Okay, I mean, I appreciate that comment and thank you for bringing that to our attention. I don't think we heard anything from the town themselves. And as far as we know, we met our statutory requirements. Any comments about the plan or the process? Yep, Andy?
I just want a clarification. Art, are you making a motion to table it at this point? Or are you making just a comment?
I'd like to make a motion to table it.
Okay, so we have a motion to table. Do we have a second? And thank you for that point of order, Andy. All right, having no second, the motion fails. Is that appropriate, Andy? I never actually had to fail a motion before. Okay. Sarah?
Just a question. If there are people and I apologize, I can't tell who's talking, in your town who haven't seen this, once we vote, there's still a 35-day period, right?
That's correct, where the town can object.
So they can take the next 34 days to read it and then raise any objections or concerns at that point, right? So we're not closing the door on them 100% right at this moment.
That's correct, Sarah.
Okay.
Any other comments, either procedurally or substantively about the draft plan? And speak out if I don't call on you accidentally.
Gabby, I'm not sure if you want, I do have the, you mentioned the comments from Town of Brattleboro and Town of Putney. I do have those comments on a slide if it's would be helpful to share that. Again, they are just kind of factual corrections we need to make. So I just wanted to mention I have them on a slide if that would be useful, but I don't need to share them.
I'm going to suggest, unless people have strong feelings, not because, again, they're just sort of, somebody is a, it's similar to Brattleboro's correction where we're sort of correcting for facts that may have occurred after we started the actual draft planning process, which we want to make, we want to add in as a page, but we're, I'd call it non-substantive in that they don't impact our policies. Any other comments?
The town of Jamaica has no objections to the plan.
Excellent, Andy. Okay, with that, I take that to be Andy Snelling's going to correct me, but call question, right, Andy?
Sure. Call the
All right.
question.
Hearing and seeing no other questions, issues, or comments? All those in favor of the motion to approve the plan with the correction page, raise your hand. And please give me a moment. Give me one more minute.
All hands are raised.
I'm just gonna, for avoidance, I see all active commissioners raising their hand aside from Art.
And all hands are raised in the room if you can't see that.
Excellent. All right, hands down. Are there any nays? Art, I see your hand. Any other nays? Bonnie, you voted yes, right? So your hand is down. Okay. Any abstentions? I see no abstentions. So right now,
None in the room, nobody changed their mind.
okay, good. So right now, motion passes with one nay. So if I do my subtraction right, because Peter Barris joined us,
You did. Okay.
I believe that's 26.
27.
Debbie, is anybody,
Peter.
Ayes.
is anybody, Debbie,
Oh, hey, Steve Lemke. So motion passes. Thank you all for being here and for your patience and allowing us to get to a quorum point. And thank you for, for many of you, your several years of commitment to this process and to weighing in on this process. I know it was a long slog and a lot of committee meetings that were, sort of delved into the details, which might not have been extremely exciting, but I think it really produced a fine result for our region. So thank you all, and thank you to staff. All right, with that, I'm going to move us back to our administrative items and reports, which is the approval of the minutes for the April 29th, 2025 meeting. I would entertain a motion to approve the minutes. Thank you, Anne. Do I have a second?
second,
Thank you, Jim. I have a motion to approve the April 29th, 2025 meetings with a second. Any discussion?
Gabby, sorry, who made the motion in a second? I'm sorry.
Anne made the motion, Jim Pinkerton seconded.
Okay.
And I hear no discussion. All those in favor of approval of the meeting minutes, raise your hand. Just give me a moment, please. Good.
All hands are raised in the room.
Excellent. Put your hands down, please. Any opposed? I see no opposed. Any abstentions? I see Bonnie, I see Carrie, I see Sue. And I see Elizabeth Bridgewater. Did I miss anyone else?
I'm abstaining because I wasn't here.
Perfect. So I have 4 abstentions. So motion passes. All right, moving on to project review committee report.
Hey, Gabby, just real quick, so I have it. I did miss who seconded the regional plan adoption. Sorry, I just want to have it, make sure I got that
I
documented.
made the motion and Bonnie seconded.
Got it. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
All
sorry.
right. Yeah, no worries. Moving on to our project review committee report. As usual, you can always check the WRC committee page. Jim, as chair, did you want to update anyone? I know we did send a letter regarding that that project in Vernon last
Yep.
month.
yeah, I just got a brief review on that. We sent a letter to the Public Utilities Commission stating that the solar project for Governor Hunt Road proposed by Great River Hydro had regional significance. It was consistent with the regional plan, and the committee did not take a position on the fact that the town opposed the position. And that's really the only significant thing we had since the last time we've met. Projects have been pretty slow in Vermont right now. There's several that were already approved that we didn't have any comment on, And there's one that's still outstanding in Dummerston. They're trying to put a boathouse in there, bless their hearts, and having a little bit of trouble with that right now. And so it'll be on review the next time we meet. And that's basically it.
Excellent. Thank you, Jim. And as usual, anyone can join any of our committee meetings. So if you're interested, feel free to join, even if you're not a voting member, if you're interested in a particular project. I strongly encourage that.
Yeah.
With that, I'm going to turn it over to the chair's report. Chris?
So I'll be brief. First, I want to note, well, I just want to say thank you to all the commissioners for your engagement throughout this process and your support of staff. It was a lot of work that you guys put into it. Want to commend staff for their great work and Matt taking this on. He hadn't done a regional plan, I don't think, right?
Nope.
Before you came to Windsor Regional Commission, and so he got here on day one. I was, hey Matt, you're in charge of updating the regional plan, staffing that effort. So he's done a fantastic job. And just so folk know, because we do have a number of new commissioners, this web-based plan, some other RPCs got ahead of us in adopting a web-based plan, but we were the ones who actually led the charge in doing it. So we didn't really have any precedent to rely on, except for just a couple of other plans elsewhere in the country. So so that was it's a really big deal. So hopefully everybody involved will find the utility of the plan, its ease of use, and hopefully even just the desire to look at it and peruse it, as opposed to picking up the tome and reading it like we used to. Hopefully it'll just be more accessible to people and of more interest. August, I do not have my calendar open in front of me, but your August full commission meeting is your annual business meeting. So please, we need a regular quorum, majority of all towns represented, where you'll be voting on the work program and the budget for fiscal year 2026. And you'll be electing executive board members, officers, and citizen interest commissioners. And that I will confirm that date for you. It's the last Tuesday of August. And that will be the 26th at 6 o'clock, and it'll just be a regular hybrid meeting like we normally have. And then I have some good news on, to me, this is such a big item. It's more than just the funding front. It's what we do. The federal government had delayed release of the notice of funding opportunity for what's called the Emergency Management Performance Grant since May, and that was released last week. It's a really big deal beyond regional planning so that's the funding that we have access to through Vermont Emergency Management that enables us to support emergency preparedness within our towns. It helps us do things like support towns in their flood hazard bylaw updates. And it helps us participate in statewide drills and other preparedness actions. But critically too, beyond that, that same grant funds basically 90% of Vermont Emergency Management's operations. So had that not been released, Vermont Emergency Management, along with a number of emergency management agencies throughout the nation, would have been scrambling to figure out how are they going to be funded. So not out of the woods totally. We're good for this coming fiscal year. There's still memos coming out of FEMA talking about eliminating those programs altogether, but we'll see what happens. But for now, the other important thing about this is if we had lost that staff capacity, by virtue of the funding paying for staff time, if we had lost that, that would have started pulling the thread that RPCs are in terms of emergency preparedness and response. Agency of Commerce, a lot of state agencies rely on us serving our local liaison role and preparedness role, supporting municipalities, whether it's Department of Transportation, in addition to Vermont Emergency Management, it's also VTrans, Agency of Natural Resources, Agency of Commerce and Community Development. So if that thread had gotten pulled, it could have potentially started unraveling a lot of kind of foundational support for municipal preparedness and just kind of region-wide response. So So to me, it's not a huge percentage of our funding, but again, it's just an example of it's one of those areas where we work in that may even be kind of easily taken for granted. But if we had lost that, that could have been a real challenge for the region, both in preparedness and then ultimately if something when won't say if the next disaster. I mean, reality is when it happens. So that to me is just really good news. We had zeroed that out in our draft budget. Now we're able to put it back in. So that was really good news. And that's really what I've got. We'll be bringing the draft work program and budget to the executive board at their meeting on August 12th. The finance committee has already reviewed it and given its endorsement or recommendation to that the executive board endorse it. So if they do, then they may make amendments to it, but that's what you'll be seeing as a full commission at your meeting at the end of August. So that'll be same time, normal meeting format. Yeah, so that's what I've got.
Great. Thank you, Chris. I see two hands, so just give me a second. Stephen Chait and then Art.
Thank you. Chris, a while ago, based on your recommendation, the commissioners were to give a report to their select board saying that when it came to emergency management, things were pretty dire and that the towns had to start thinking about how to be on their own in some circumstances. Does this release of funds sort of reduce the degree of that warning to towns, and how would you recommend that we present this change to the select boards?
I wouldn't necessarily. I mean, the main thing is that the support that we've historically been able to give their emergency management directors through like the Regional Emergency Management Committee and other things, we'll be able to continue to do that. I haven't seen. We're going to have to turn around quickly a proposal, but I'm not anticipating major changes coming from Vermont Emergency Management. I will note we don't know exactly the budgetary impact, but I'm expecting. And last year we had a 20% cut. I'm expecting another of that magnitude again, so it's getting winnowed down. But the towns probably won't see any direct impact from that cut, as opposed to if we had been eliminated. We would have to figure out. I guess I don't even know who would. Again, it's beyond. It would have been bigger than us. It would have been how is the state funding Vermont emergency management? Yes. So probably, what's happened at the regional planning commission level would have been the least of their worries. But the message to the towns about being prepared is no. Not all federal disaster declarations that traditionally would have been that typically would have been approved by statute and by rule have not been approved. There was a recent article in the Washington Post about over the weekend about an $18 million disaster in Western Maryland that did not receive a federal disaster declaration. And to me, that and I think there've been a number of delays in the declarations broadly. There are some that just haven't gotten them. I don't know that Ruidoso in New Mexico has gotten theirs yet. So it's just not as predictable as it was. And Vermont has benefited greatly from a relatively low disaster threshold for Vermont. For most municipalities or a county, if we hit $1 million worth of damage, that would tend to result in a federal disaster declaration. And I don't think we're seeing as many of those small scale disasters getting declared. So what my suggestion, what it has been is put money aside for a rainy day, literally and figuratively. Establish lines of credit with lending institutions, understand public finance options, whether it's bonding or other options that you've got to help finance recovery if there are not state or federal funds coming. And then also consider, use your local hazard mitigation plans, town plans, other things, but also work with your road foreman, public works, whoever you've got, to develop capital improvement plans to identify what infrastructure needs investing in, especially not only at post-disaster what to repair, but to start thinking be proactive on mitigation. Critically, one thing I'll note is that in my numbers may be off, so don't quote me on this, but on the 20 or so disaster declarations that have been declared thus far under this administration, unless something's changed in the last week or so, none of them have had any what's called hazard mitigation program grant funding associated with those, and Vermont has relied heavily on that to perform mitigation actions. So a lot of towns, your towns, we've helped develop grants to the State Hazard Mitigation Grant Program. The funding for that originates from FEMA, and the vast majority of that is a result of formula funding that comes in the wake of disasters. In the wake of the 23 and 24 disaster, I serve on the State Hazard Mitigation Grant Project Review Committee. We had roughly $90 million to work with. So if this pattern continues, imagine we have a disaster. Imagine we had the 23 and 24 disaster again. That would be $90 million we would not have to work with as a
Thank you.
state.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Art, you had
Stephen.
your hand up?
Oh, if Art had his hand up.
Yeah, Chris, and anybody else, FEMA recently offered a cyber impact on emergency planning. Did anybody from the staff participate in that training?
I don't know. I would have to check.
Okay. I did.
Great.
Very worthwhile.
Thanks, Art.
I think we did push that out to the towns, as from what I can't remember, but I think we did. I asked Alyssa to push that out to the towns, I believe.
Any other questions for Chris? All right, seeing none, I'm going to move on to the next item, which is the chair's report. I really don't have much to add, except we will have our annual business meeting in August. So thank you for being here tonight, but please come back again in August to make sure we make a quorum. And then we will be planning an in-person event later in the fall. So please stay tuned for details about that as we plan it.
And the emphasis, per Eric Stevens' suggestion, I think I'll talk to the executive board about this, and Gabby, I'm going to mind my saying, but we'll get into the details. But I think really we're going to try to focus as an opportunity for commissioners to get to know one another, but also to get to know staff. I think that'll be a big part of the focus. So we may forgo like the typical guest speaker and really focus more on everybody getting to know one another, and not like boring dry presentations from staff, but somewhere between like explaining what it is that they do in commission our day to day, and then an interpretive dance. So somewhere in there to keep it interesting. So but that the main thing is, I thought, kind of fellowshipping is what we'll focus on.
All right. And so thank you so much for those of you who are early, on time, late, anyone, you all helped us get our regional plan approved tonight. Thank you all for your participation and your preparation in advance. I appreciate it. With that, I'm going to turn it over to public comment. Does anyone have a public comment? Anything that was not on the agenda that you'd like to let us know about? All right, hearing and seeing none. So even though we're late, we're going to end on time. Thank you for your time. I would entertain a motion to adjourn. Thank you, Sarah. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, George. Non-debatable motion. All those in favor, please raise your hand.
All hands are raised in the room.
Excellent. All hands are raised here that I see. Motion is unanimous. Thank you so much, and I will see you in August.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Right.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.